Hello, and welcome back to Darius Finance International. No, no. That's right, we've gone super professional and we have a new intro. Right, anyway, let's get on with this. So, in the last video, we went over the 10 criteria that Sotheby's used to value art, and today we're going to be looking at rarity, which is the first thing that should leap out at you, and not just because it's highlighted, because it's something that's ubiquitous across the NFT world so far. If you think back to the Super Llamas, like one of the reasons they failed is they didn't have a rarity chart. So I began thinking about rarity, and I thought the first painting that came to mind from traditional art is this, which you know what it is. It's the Mona Lisa, world famous, probably the world's most valuable artwork. I've actually been to see the Mona Lisa in Paris, and without question, it was the most disappointing thing I've ever seen. It is bollocks. Like, you go into this room, there's thousands of people with like camera phones, everyone's shouting in French. That it's smelly, not necessarily because they're French, but I'm not necessarily excluding that. And look at it, it's bollocks. It's a piece of shit. But it's world famous. Now, why is it world famous? Well, I typed into Google, why is it so famous? And an article I found from the Britannica didn't, they said no one really knows. But I found this in the article, which was that at the time of making it, like Leonardo da Vinci was using a new sort of pose or style, and his contemporaries were wowed by this. Like, everyone was like, oh, this is great, isn't it? And the reason it was so great was because it was novel, meaning unique or rare. And I began to think, is the Mona Lisa just so successful because it was the first of its kind? Probably not, but it's an interesting track to explore. So I asked Sarah's dad what the rarest collectible he could think of was, and he put me onto this, which is the penny black. So this is basically the world's first stamp as we know them. It's also the most famous of the stamps because it was an adhesive one, so you could just like stick it on an envelope and send it. And beforehand, apparently, it was really complicated, but it became the most famous stamp in the world. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's see what's going on. Why is it so expensive? So the way it was made was using these plates here. So this is like a full steel plate with lots of pictures of the penny black engraved on it, and then they whacked the ink and the paper in, smacked it down, cut it off. Bob's your uncle. Here we go. Like, these are the stamps. Um, but here you can see that the value actually comes from the rarity, because plate number 11, only 168,000 were made. And I remember thinking, I thought that there were probably only about 10 of them in circulation, but I had a little check, and it turns out over 68 million were made. So it's not rare at all. But this here, a bit like a rarity chart, is what makes some worth more than others, as well as things like the condition. So I thought that was quite interesting, that it's about sort of like its rarity matters for things that are mass produced. So I went to the Bored Ape Yacht Club, and I believe, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there's roughly 10,000 of these, and these are the most like expensive things going at the moment. And you can see here list of their traits. There's like 8 traits here. Some are more common than others. That leads it to be given a rarity score. So you would assume that things that are more rare than others are more valuable than others. Or, it's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. But I actually began to suspect that statistically this not might be correct, the rarity score. And I was going to do it, but a quick Google showed me that someone else had done it. And here you can see the same 3 pictures sorted by their rarity, but using different criteria for rarity, such as like average and probabilities and things. And you can see that it renders different results. And this began to confirm something that I've been thinking for a while, is that rarity isn't actually that important in NFTs. It's what rarity leads to that's important. And what it leads to is differentiation between the pictures. So all these different traits are all in the same art style and stuff, but they're recognizable as being part of the same collection. And I think it's the variance between the pictures that makes them desirable. because we're going to go into something a bit later down the line called Mechaverse, which didn't do this, and I think it's about the trait value. So let me just consult my notes to make sure. Okay, we're off to see the wizard now. So I actually confirmed this a bit later, where I looked at a first. This is the second edition of the Lord of the Rings, which is obviously very popular. And here it goes for £100, so about $140. Looked at the first edition, goes for £1,000 or $1,400, right? And now that seems obvious, doesn't it? However, the second edition is more rare than the first edition. So what does that tell us? It tells us that It tells us that rarity isn't always the thing that is valued, right? There has to be desire to get something before rarity becomes important. And I know this is going to be really boring, but we're going to look at supply and demand in depth at one stage. So you might want to miss that video. But supply and demand is about how scarce. Basically, what it says is that the more scarce something is, the more people will pay for it. And if we think about NFTs, you only really get scarcity from the mint. Like at the moment, people go mental trying to be whitelisted to get on a mint, and it reminds me a lot of the iPhone. Right here, you can see like people camping out like it's Call of Duty or something for an iPhone 6S. Now, these people know they're going to be able to get it in a couple of months, and these people know that in 12 months there's going to be another one that they're going to have to get their tents out for. So, why are they out here trying to get it? It's because they believe that the scarcity makes it more valuable, right? I don't really understand that from an investment point of view, but it seems to be a sort of human fault. So what have we learned so far that we can apply? I think the big lesson that we can learn is that rarity doesn't necessarily make something good, and for something to be good, it doesn't have to be rare. But if you put the two together, where you have a good product that's rare, that's what we want to be looking for. So I'm beginning to believe that the 10,000 profile pictures collections that you see everywhere, that we should be sticking away from them. And I'll give you another reason we should be sticking away from them, is because we're going to be more focused on the artist, right? Unless the artist is Trollsy. I hope I've said his name right. This is you can read what happened here, but we'll be going into that in more depth. But what ideally we want to be looking out for with rarity is something that I've spotted here, which is Barcelona, whether you like them or not, are probably the third biggest football club in the world, which is the world's most popular sport. And very, very soon, they're going to be launching NFTs, right? Unique NFTs, and then they're going to be doing limited editions and collections. Those unique NFTs, or like one-to-one NFTs, are probably what we want to be looking for. Things that are desirable and unique. So to sum everything up, yeah, rarity's good. It's not the be all or the end all. We're going to be looking more for the quality of the artist, and then looking at rarity. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that episode, and unfortunately we'll be looking at supply and demand soon. So yeah, from all of us at Darius Finance International, goodbye. Bye. Bye.